Hello Luc. Hello everyone, we have welcome first to this presentation today. We have only 3 people in the call right now, so I'm going to give, we have over 25 people registered, so I'm going to give this another 5 minutes for people to come up. Hello Peter, welcome to the call. I'm just waiting for everyone to arrive within another 2-3 minutes. We're going to start shortly. We have about 5 in the call so far. It's funny, there was 30 people registered. Anyway, I guess Australia Day is closed, so people are preparing for that. Welcome everyone. So my name is Martin. As you know, I'm going to put my video on. I've got 2 screens today, so I'll be able to see if you shout, if you move, or if you ask any questions. I have that on another screen, so don't hesitate. You don't have to put your video on. You're very welcome to if you want. I'm just going to customize up the screen so I can see everyone there as well. Thank you for joining today. So, as you know, my name is Martin. I'm a consultant in setup of ASANA. Those sessions we are doing today are part of our managed services. So a quick introduction, for one more person joining us. A quick introduction first to our company, to ASANA, and then we're going to dive into the presentation. So my name is Martin. I'm a Platinum partner. We are specialized in no-code, no-code solutions. So we're here to help streamline businesses. We have offices in Australia, in New Zealand, and in Philippines. And we work with you on setting up the solutions and supporting them. So that will cover deployment, training, consulting, managing the application after. And we also help you with integration and with financing your license and services. Work mostly with ASANA, but also with Make, FormStack, which helps streamlining services. and also company like TimeCamp for measuring efficiency of your team, or DocuSign and Salesforce, which I don't need to present. This session today is part of our 101 event. So we have in our managed services a series of services, and for the first 3 months of this year, we are offering every of our customers to join actually those events. After that, it's a paid service, but it is actually quite cheap. And it includes a lot of other things such as support, which is a priority support, but also some monitoring of your instance and some monthly and quarterly review of the performance of your ASANA to help with user adoption. And finally, you have a backup as well of your instance. Something to think about if you want to continue. For the meantime, we are looking at the 101 session. This is our second session, so we'll be looking at notification and sharing. So we'll be focusing on how to set up your project, how to make sure that it's accessible by everyone, how to make sure notifications are set up properly, so everyone is aware of what they do. We also be looking in the coming weeks in February to service project, which I think is really interesting. I would invite you to join that one. There is a limit on our attendees of 25 per session at the moment. We're going to look at removing that limit, but I think there's still a few seats left for next week, for in 2 weeks. Otherwise, come back to the page. We're going to remove that in the coming days. Then we're looking at reports and dashboard. We already had a session a week ago about that, but that was an advanced session. This one is more of an introduction one. And we're having a look at customize my task in March, early March, and that will be something that's very useful for staff in general to know where to start your day and how to replace your inbox of Outlook by ASANA My Task. And then we have a look at building our first workflow together. That will be end of March. This is the schedule till the end of March, but then there is a new schedule that will be released for the next 3 months. And those are the 101 events, which are the beginners events. We also have the advanced training events, which we've covered last week, advanced reporting. Next week, we'll be looking at ASANA AI capabilities, which is the big buzzword at the moment. I think this one is full, but again, we're going to remove the limitation in terms of maximum number of users. And I suggest you have a look at it because it's really interesting. It's just the beginning, but there is a lot. We'll also be looking at ASANA for the Microsoft stack. After that, that will be mid of February. If your company use Microsoft, that's very interesting. We'll be covering some today, but there's more. And then there's Google Suite. If you use Google, that would be mid-March. And then we also look end of Feb around collaborating between teams, which again, we cover a bit today with notification, but that's a very different subject. When we look at it in the advanced training, we'll be looking at multi-hosting of tasks, how you can have a task in several projects and teams, and how teams can collaborate around things. And then we have a look end of March to our 5 favorite apps. So if any of that is of interest, you probably have received an email with links, or you can go back to the Eventbrite page and you can register to it. Again, it's limited at the moment, and some of those events, most of them are already full, but we will remove the limitation in the coming days. So you should come back maybe on Monday and have a look if you want to register to it. Now, today we're going to cover ASANA. I'm going to present ASANA as a first introduction to it. So today one event, so we have plenty of people arriving. And our 101 event starts at a very beginner level. So if you already use ASANA for a while, it's a bit of repeat, but really what we cover is actually quite interesting, even if you know already ASANA. We have a look at visibility. The first thing in ASANA, to be able to collaborate and manage your notification, is going to have the visibility set up properly. So we'll have a look at where we can set it up, how you can protect your data, how to work with external parties such as customers or provider, and how to ensure that they have the right access, not too much access, not enough access, so that we can all work together. And then we're going to have a look also at how we're going to use ASANA compared to emails, Slack, Team, and other tools we have available to understand where ASANA fits in the mix and what's the best way to use it. In a third party, 50s long naming convention here, but in the third section, we have a look at notifications. So how, from this visibility, we can set up notifications on my mobile, on my Outlook, on my computer to make sure that I receive the right information at the right time. And this for me and for my team. If we don't put enough notification, we're going to miss out on requests from people, which is going to have an impact. And sometimes the impact is people don't go to Asana anymore because if they request something, then they don't get it done, then they go back to email, which is obviously not what we want to get done. So setting up notification is very important. The opposite is also true. If we have too many notifications, people feel bombarded and that annoys them. We don't want that to happen. So how do we get to the right level of notification on our computer, email, or mobile phone? And also we're going to have a look at some first easy integration. So if you guys use Team, if you use Slack, if you use Zoom, if you use those tools, there are some quick wins that we can get out of. A quick setup that you don't need your administrator. So I'll show you that. And then we have a look finally, if we have time, not sure if we can, but communication inbox is where to find our messages, how to use contextual messaging, and how to use all these inbox functionalities to get faster to what we need to do. Now, as usual, rules of engagement, please participate. Don't hesitate to ask questions. Everybody's a newbie here. Except me maybe, and even me, I learn every day. And you know, everybody's been on his first day, so we all understand if there's a question, there is no bad questions. Try it on. Usually I do offer an access to a demo instance of Asana, but you all have Asana already here in this call because you're our customers. So please feel free to jump directly on your Asana and try what I'm talking about during the demonstration. I will be showing things. Please do it as well. If you do it, there's a much higher chance that you will remember it. And you may also come up with questions or face problems. I'm here to answer it. Then finally, have fun. No one's judging you here, and we're all here to have fun. It's important to enjoy our work. I'm not throwing unicorns at you, but the application might. All right. Today we'll be covering a few goals. So at the end of today, you should be able to know how to create your projects and organize them to ensure the right access is given to each people in your organization, also portfolio and tasks. How to set up the notification preference, so you know the right information at the right time. You'll be able to organize and prioritize communications in the right channel, and you'll be able to communicate with your teammates at every step of the way. Amazing. Now, normally we use a demo instance, but we're not going to do that today, so I jump over this one and a quick introduction to Asana. Again, if you've been in previous presentation, that might be a bit of a repeat, but it's always important to put the right context before we start jumping in. By the way, if at any point in time you have a question, please raise your hand or write in the chat. I have it open and I'll be able to answer to you. Now, a bit of history. So why? Because I like to always for us to remember what is Asana, where it fits, and why we use it. So Asana is what we call a work management platform. And many people assimilate it to a project management platform, which is kind of true, but not entirely. So if we look at what project management platforms are, they were designed in the 1980s, and they were used by project manager in their room to do planning and measure the execution of a project. So there was no involvement of other teams. People who were doing the job were not using the project management platform. And that makes a big difference. So if you had big project to build a tower, a bridge with millions of dollars or pesos or any other currency, you will be using such a tool. You will have a dedicated team and they will do some reporting, analysis, and reorganize the work constantly to have the best result. But if you're doing a smaller job, then that did not really work. So around the year 2000, 2010, we started having cloud computing. People started working a bit more from home, not really at that point, but later. And we started collaborating online. So we saw task management coming up, and that enables people to work on a task together. We can plug in our favorite apps, and we can collaborate whether we are home or not home on a job to finish the work. Something like TaskRay or other tools. Now, if we go today, we're working with Asana today, and Asana is a work management platform. So it is a project management platform, which is online, where you also have task management. So the two are combined in an interface where we work together to deliver the job. And our objective in ASANA is to make sure that we are all spending as little time as possible organizing and reporting, and as much time as possible doing the job. So we're going to look at having information in the right place, knowing our priorities, being able to communicate to each other, and in such case, to have access to the information and notification about the work. And then we're going to be able to report on that, because we do everything in the tool together. We can then report on it. It saves time to everyone. And that's a very important concept that we need to include in today's discussion. Is it's a place where we do the work. If you do the work in ASANA, then you win, because you don't do reporting after that. You don't have to find the files everywhere they are and manage multiple channels of communication. Was it on Slack? Was it on Team? Was it an SMS? Was it an email? No, it's in ASANA, and we can combine all those communication in one place. And then we can report on this without having to prepare a project status report or do complicated things. It's all in there and done by the people who execute the job. So that's why this is very important to understand, that we are looking at a work management platform, and we will be doing the work in the same place where we do our reporting and we store the files and information and communications. Any questions so far? It's rare. I've got a very quiet team today. All right. So where does ASANA fits? If we look at what we have in a company today, before there is ASANA, you have documents stored somewhere, and then you have messaging stored everywhere, Slack, Team, emails, etc. And with ASANA, we're going to try to put all that together so that we can find information in one place. Now, another important concept before I start jumping into demonstration is how ASANA organizes information. It is replicating the same as in your organization. So in your organization, you will have a CEO and a board of directors at the top, and they will define goals. We have also goals in ASANA. We have top managers that manage a list of projects that they need to execute, that we will manage through portfolios and teams that we have in ASANA. Then we have projects that we execute, and then we have tasks that are part of the projects. And then we talk about it, put some comments, and we also share some files that will be the communication attached to those projects. And so today we have a look at how this communication here is organized and how the access to the other elements is organized. But keep in mind always which position you are in the organization, and this position may change depending on the project or the team, and you might have several positions at the same time. But each of the communication that we're going to have a look at today will define how it will be defined by where we sit in the organization. Okay. So to make this a bit more interactive, may I ask you today, what tools are you using to communicate? Can you put that into the chat? Are you using Gmail? Are you using Outlook? Are you using Slack? Are you using Team? Are you using Zoom? Are you using Discord? What are you using today? Please, a few words in the chat. Viber, Teams, Outlook and Teams. Microsoft here, Viber, that's interesting. Lots of WhatsApp as well, imagine Teams. Cool. Outlook, lots of Microsoft. All right. All right, so we will be covering integration to Teams as well. I'll show you a bit how that can work, but that's very interesting, and your answers are quite common. We will typically have in an organization a tool for messaging, should be internal, a tool for email, which we'll use to send more formal communication typically, and then web conference tools such as Teams or Zoom. So there are pain points to this. The first one is when you're sending an email message, you first have to decide which channel you're going to use. Am I going to use instant messaging? Am I going to use an email? Am I going to use Teams or Zoom or whatever? And then we need to know if they received it. Is this person receiving it? So sometimes you end up finding yourself sending an email And then you send also a Slack message behind to make sure that people receive. Do they understand the concept? You know, when I send a message, the context, sorry, do they understand what it relates to? Very often you send an email or a message, say, what did you mean about this project or that project? There might be confusions about the context, what it relates to. And was it the right person? Am I communicating with the right person around that project? Is it the project manager? Is it, you know, is this person working on that project? We're not always sure. Sometimes you send it to the wrong person. And when you're receiving a message from someone else, you also have some pain points. You know, where did I receive it already? You know, I told you yesterday, oh, damn, did you say it to me in Teams? Did you send me an SMS? Did you call me? Was it on Facebook? You know, where did you send it to me? What does it relate to? So same thing, I received a message, what is it about? You want me to do the report, but on which project, on what? And how important is it compared to the rest of the work I have to do? And where are, the related documents and information to that particular task. So we don't always have all the information. And so all that makes it difficult to communicate, and it creates a lot of, you know, ambiguity and necessity to clarify or to find information, which we lose a lot of time on. Does that resonate to you, those pain points? Do you guys have similar issues? Feel a bit alone here. Don't hesitate to speak. There's only 6 people in the call, so no, 9 actually. But don't hesitate to speak out loud. Small community. So the very first thing we want to do is set up some guidelines. People do their job, they do the best they can, but to do their job, they need to get good directions from us as managers. And so there are some recommendations and best practices on how to use those different channels, which I've put in here. So typically we will use ASANA to organize our work, and therefore we will project, task, anything else around it. And all the communication that relates to the task, actionable work, questions, reports, requests, all those information, we're going to try to put as much as possible in ASANA, because if something goes wrong, it's traceable. We know when it was requested, we know we have a copy of the message, it's dated, it's stamped, there's context, you know, when you put a comment on a request, people knows what it is about. There's a lot of benefits in communicating in there, but not everything can fit within ASANA. So sometimes we use an email platform, and that typically will be for communication that is wider to people that don't have ASANA. So that can be internal or external. Announcement, things that are, you know, general HR information, etc., or communication to external customers if they are not working on a project with us in ASANA. That's typically how we use email. Internally, we don't use email much anymore. Personally, at Platinum Partner, we use ASANA 99% of the time. It's very, very, very rare that I have an email from one of my coworkers. And I really enjoy it because my mailbox is almost empty, and I really love that. Except, you know, I really love receiving message from you as well. Then we have a look at chat, and chat, we typically will use that for instant message. So I want something right now, I need an answer on that, I am locked on that, and I don't have the time to wait for people to look at their inbox, whether in ASANA or in mail. I want an instant answer, so, or an alert. Something is going really wrong, and we need to sort it out right now. Or sometimes, you know, if you want to have a group of discussions, so you have a group for a specific project you want to discuss there, and it's more interactive, so you can put it there. It's usually informal, so it's hard to relate to it if something goes wrong after. So it's good to put the request still into your ASANA, but if you want something faster, maybe buzz the person on your chat tool or ask them to look at the task in ASANA, it helps. And then finally, we have Zoom and Team and Google Meet. Those tools are here to manage meetings and discussions and one-on-one projects, and they offer a different solution than you have in ASANA. But now all of those tools can be integrated with ASANA, and we can have many different things. So if I look at Zoom, for example, you can have your meetings on Zoom, but you can relate them to a task. Very useful, because then you can save the video and the transcript of the call on a task for a meeting. The same applies to Team. You can save those attached to a task. But in Team, you also, and in Zoom, you have the ability during your meeting to create tasks directly from your meeting into ASANA. So you're in a meeting like we are here today, you discuss with your colleague, your weekly meeting, for example, and you can just create tasks so that you have actionable points out of your meeting. Very, very interesting. Helps a lot during those meetings. And again, the recording as well is quite a good function. So you have a meeting and then you can attach the recording to the task and you can always come back to it. Chat, we can integrate this direct integration between Slack and Teams so that when something happens in ASANA, you can fire a message into one of those. Very interesting as well. And then finally, emails, basically Gmail and Outlook, have integration as well so that you can take an email and make it a task in ASANA or update a task in ASANA from an email. And there's now new functions that was released this month around Gmail where you can then have the thread of emails attached to a task, and then it attaches every answer as a comment so that it starts bringing this discussion inside the task, which is a really cool feature. So that's generally how I recommend ASANA for all the work organization discussions around work, because you have all your files, your communication, etc. here. When you can't, because people don't have ASANA, use emails, but try to attach it. When you want immediate communication or you want an alert, you can connect ASANA to send an alert in Slack or Zoom, Slack or Team. And when you do web conferencing like we're doing now, you can attach to record and create tasks during the meeting directly in your ASANA. Now, to put things in context, when we manage work, there's different steps: recording the work, which is what we do when we create the project; planning and prioritizing, this is when we start giving the work to people; and then communicating, this is when we start executing it. That's what we're going to be looking at now. So the very first thing we're going to have a look at, and I'm going to start jumping into ASANA to show you, is how we're going to configure visibility, access to information, and sharing rules. The objective we're going to follow here is going to have a look at setting up the securities for teams, for projects, and for portfolios, and for goals. And how do we give access to external people while not jeopardizing the access of information internally? We don't want to create risk for our business. So I have created here a little instance of ASANA that you should all see on the screen. Yes, Dion, thank you for the comment. So that was 5 minutes ago, by the way, so I didn't see it. Yes, we have a lot of lost in the noise. So there's a lot of communication in every direction, and it gets lost. We lose priorities if we don't have a place to put all the information. Thank you for the comment, by the way, because I was feeling a bit lonely. Okay, all right. So this is an ASANA instance. You're all familiar with this. You all have ASANA. The very first thing we need to think about is make sure we give access to people to the information. And ASANA is a collaboration tool, as we explained earlier. So if you work in a finance tool, you will have an approach of not giving access to anything and then just giving access to people to what they actually need. Just that, nothing more, because you have too many security issues with it. But we're looking at a collaboration tool. So we're going to try to take a different approach, which is to give access to everyone and then only restrict where we need to restrict it. And so in ASANA, you will have the concept of teams. Teams are a group of people working together. And when you look at a team, you will be able to put your project. So each of the projects will be part of a team. And so attached to team, the people that are in the team will be a default access for the project. So when you add the project, you create a team, you add your people to it. Every time you create a project in that team, everybody in that team will have the same access to it to start with. And then we're going to see how we can override that. But that's the starting point. And typically, my recommendation will be create a team for everyone that is open to everyone, where you can put your project that you are going to work across the company on. And then start restricting. Then start having a team per department, for example. You can have a team for marketing, a team for finance, a team for HR, or you can have a team for Dion, a team for John, a team for Mark. But we'll create first a team that will share with everyone, that you can name your company here, and you will say that, but I'm going to show you in a second, as open and everything shared. And every project there will be visible to everybody so we can collaborate. Now, when you look at a team, you can go and you have the team settings here. And we're going to define what sorts of privacy can be applied on this team. So you've got three. The first one is public to the organization. So in that case, our team is going to be visible to everyone. And what is in that team, the project, by default, that can be overridden, everything can be overridden, will be visible to everyone. So if we create a project like this, we call it My Company, we put it here, everything in My Company will be visible to everyone. Even if you're not a member of the team, you will see everything. You will see the team and you will see everything that's inside. The second part is you can make it private. Private means that it's not visible to anyone, and you need to invite people manually so that they can access the team. And then membership by request, the team is visible to everyone, but to get access to it, you need to request it, and then there will be approvals. And so on this, you will be able here to define your members, but in advanced especially, you're going to be able, if it's a team that is per request, to define who can actually modify the team and who can accept new people and approve new people to join the team. And if you go into members, you will be able to see each of the team member and their role in the team, if they are a member or if they're a team admin. They become a team admin, they have the advanced rights that will be defined here. And this is how the team is set up. This can be obviously overridden. And we can, oops, sorry for that. And we can then look at that at a project level. But by default, that's where you need to start. Create a team, share it with everyone. So you have one common place, like the cafeteria or the coffee machine where everybody can work and everything is shared. And then if you have a team that is private, for example, HR, you just want to select between HR or executives, or just between the two of you or three of you, you want to have projects work together. Create a private team or membership team by request. And this team will have members, and we have different projects, and we also have the templates. So important, the template also apply to a team, and so the access also applies to a team. And you can have messages in the team. Honestly, I don't use that very often. There's also a calendar app that shows all the project deadline and task in that team. So that can be useful. Not my favorite function, honestly. I think it's quite limited, but you can have it here. Now, you can also copy a link to the team so that people can be joining the team, or you can also invite them directly here from the invite function. All right. Now, this team here, we have our project, and when we open a project, we have defined that people in this team will have access to that project. But what access are they going to get? Well, when you go into one of your projects, you have that share button on top. And that share button will give you access to the list of people in your project. The first thing to check is if your project is private or shared. So if it's private, then the team access don't apply to it. No one sees nothing. Private to members, it's only people that are invited. So task collaborator and people are invited to the project with the list of access I give. If it's shared with the team, so this team is called staff, it's my staff team here on the left of the screen. So if it's shared with the team, then a default access is given to all the team members. In that case, they are commenters. So in that case, I've said everyone in my team can access the project and can access the task, but they can only comment on it. And in that case here, I say nobody in my team says nothing. It's like it's a private project. The team access don't apply. I need to invite people so that they can see it. It's the most secure version of it you could have. Now I say shared with staff. That's great. We can all have a look at it. And we can then comment, or we can be editor or a project admin. So those are the three titles you can have. A commenter, you're going to be able to comment on the task. So you will see the task, you will see the custom fields, you will see the file, you will see the description of the task, but you can't modify the custom fields, you can't modify the description, and you can't modify the status of the task. So you cannot mark it as completed one. And some of you sometimes ask me, oh, but I want to give job to my team, but I don't want them to be able to update the status and say it's completed or not. Fortunately, that's not covered by ASANA. When we give a job to someone, they're actually able to update it and modify. However, you have tracking and modification, so you know who did what. And normally, if you give a job to someone, they're not supposed to go and change it. Crazy. Project admin will have an ability to do a lot of changes on the project, modify, delete the project, etc. Now, this here is what's going to apply to my team. But say that everybody in my team can comment, but Chris here is going to working on that. So I want him to be able to edit. So I'm going to be able to add a member here, say Martin, for example. And this person that I'm inviting, I'm going to say he's an editor. So now on my project, even if Martin is part of the same team where they only have comment access, I've overridden that access and I've given him a higher access, which is an editor. Know that the highest access will apply. So if he is a part of the team and the team is editor and I invite him as a commenter, he will have editor access. And two other members here are with project admin. People you invite here with those rights, they don't even need to be in the team. So you have the team access that applies to all the team members, and then you have individual access you can give that overrides that team access. So if the team access is lower, I'll get the higher one. If I'm not in the team, I will still have access to it. So really, realistically, the access to your project is managed at your project level. But because every project is in a team, you can define general access rules that saves you a lot of time in terms of configuration and makes it easier to access. This share button is available everywhere on every screen. So it's not just on project, we'll find the same on portfolio, on goals, on different screens. And just for information, you're also able to get a link. So you have here a link that you can send to everyone that gives them access to the project. So then they get access automatically through that. And they get added to the project. Now, no questions so far. What happens if I add someone that is an external collaborator? Well, that's a very good question, Martin. Thank you for asking. So in ASANA, as you know, you have two types of licenses. You have the licenses, and you have external accesses that are free licenses. These free licenses, people will have access to the system, but by default, they will have access to nothing in terms of data. So, for example, if you have a project that is in a team that is shared with everyone, open to everyone, and everybody can access, an external collaborator will not see it. So that's the big difference. License paid for, people have access and are considered internal, so they have access to the same function, and they have access to all projects with sharing internally on tasks that are shared internally. But if you're an external person, you need to be invited on the task itself or on the project itself here to have access to it. So an external collaborator, you can give them access to the entire project or to the task itself. And they'll be able to then communicate, updates, you can also create projects, create tasks, depending on the right you give them. But they don't really have a lot of limitation in terms of how to use the tool. They can just not configure it, but they can use it and create projects and tasks, etc. They just have access to what you tell them they have access to. So either on the project here, or on the task here. So on the task, you can add them as a collaborator. And when you add them as a collaborator, you can add them here. So I say, if I want to invite Martin, a platinum partner, he's not here. So imagine he's an external collaborator. I haven't yet added to ASANA. I can invite him here by email, and that will send him an invitation and give him access only to that task, not the other task. I can do here, send invitation. All right. I'm thinking we're going to get a bit short in time, so I'm going to speed up a little bit. So that gives us access to the task. We have the same button for sharing here. We have the same available on our portfolio. So I can take a portfolio here. I can share it. And same thing, we have, oops, I can give them access. I can invite Martin or another Martin here. Up. And it can be a member of the portfolio. There's only owner of member portfolio. The same applies to your report. So if you have a report here, this my team workload, you can share and you can invite people to have access to it. Same thing, member or owner. And the same applies to goals here. You can share your goals. I need to go into one of them. And then you can join here, or you can invite people to have access to go and share it with them. Okay. So that's if we look at what we wanted to cover in this presentation. Here we go. Set up teams and security, set up project and visibility, set up portfolios and visibility, and set up external access. That's what we've covered so far. Tracy, no problem. This is on recorded. We'll continue the recording after. Any questions on setting up access and visibility? No? Okay. So I'm going to start covering the second aspect, which is notifications. So the first aspect is we need to make sure that everybody has access to the information. The second aspect is we need to make sure every people gets the right notification. What the challenge is here, as I mentioned at the beginning, is if you don't have it right, people don't know you request work from them. So I'm creating a task, person doesn't receive a notification, they never get it done. Therefore, next time I'm going to go back to Slack or Zoom or a phone call or tap on the back or whatever other communication I had before, because my ASANA is not giving the job to people and they're not getting it done. So we need to make sure people have the right level of notifications. And if we give too much, that's going to annoy them and they're not going to read it. So we need to go find the right balance. So in this section, what we're going to learn is how to set up our notification settings ourselves, how to customize my notification setting per project, how to customize my mobile settings, and how to set up some simple integration. And sorry, I'm a bit late on the schedule, so I'm going a bit faster, but if it's too fast, please let me know and slow down. I can go over the time, I usually go over time. So where do we set up our notification? So first of all, where do you get notification? Well, you have different versions of ASANA. You have the web version that we see here. You have the app you can set up on your desktop. You have the mobile version on your mobile phone. And then you also have, the version installed on your Outlook that you can use. The plugin installed on your Slack or Zoom that you can use. So there are different places where you can have notification. The first thing will be to go here in my settings and to have a look at, ta-dam, very surprising, the notification panel. And so again, we want this to be at the right level of communication for us. So we might be a manager, we might be staff, we might be something in between. And depending on that, we're going to want different information. If I'm a top manager, I don't want to know every time something happens. I want to report at the end of the day of the week. If I am working on task or on a specific project, I might want to have notification every time something happens because I need to be faster and more in the details. So we have to adapt our notification level to what we want. The first thing is you can pause here notification. If you want to receive it for a while because you've been overloaded, just pause it. The second thing is you can define an hour range so that you don't get notification out of working hours or not over the weekend if you don't want to. And then finally here, as you can see, you have already an integration for Slack. So if you use Slack internally, you can connect Slack here and directly notification will be sent to you on Slack. The second way to receive notification will be by email. And here we have 4 different levels of notification. So if I want every detail, every time something happens, I receive an email. Most probably you may want that if you manage a project or tasks, then you can click this box. If you want to receive at mention only, so only when people mention your name in the comment of a task, for example, then you can check that box. If you want a summary at the end of the day of what happens, maybe if you're a project manager, but your team is running well, or if you have multiple projects and you don't want to be in the details, you can have that. And if you're a top manager and you just want a weekly report on what happens, you can use that last one. So my recommendation, as for the visibility, is put all notifications on to start with, because you don't want to miss one. Either if you miss it, then people are going to think that it doesn't work sending a message on another, so they're going to quit. If you do it, then you will receive it and you will be active. And then if you have too much of it, then you can either decrease the number of notifications here, use different tools like this one, integration to Slack or Team as well. There's lots of Team users. I'll show you Team after. Or also use browser notification instead of email notification. That might be a bit invasive. So here you're going to receive a notification on the top corner of your screen. Or use the notification on your mobile. So you can have notifications set up on your mobile that you set up on your mobile itself, so on your iPhone or on your Android, or I think there's a two only system we use today. You can set up notification in the panel and decide if you want to be notified. And finally, where you're going to be able to tweak it even more is on projects. So on your own setup here, you can define per project what sorts of notification you want to see. So here per project, I want to receive a message every time a task is created. That's very useful in terms of projects that are workflows, for example. I want to receive a notification every time there's a message. Or I want to receive a notification every time there's a status update. Status updates are covered in the reporting meeting, but essentially it's when you do a project status report. So every time a task is added, every time there's a message, or every time there's a status update. So you override that at your project level here on your account settings, or you can do the same thing at the project level. If you're the project manager, you take one project randomly, and I can go into my sharing settings, and here I can manage notification per people. So I can either, as a person, look at all my projects, or as a project manager, look at all the people, and I don't want my manager to be spammed, so I remove notifications here. That's one way to do it. Now, what's quite important in notification is to make sure everybody receives the right level of information. You can adjust it. I personally still 3 years later receive notifications on all projects at the detail of, when something, not when a task is created, but when my name is mentioned, when a task is assigned to me. I like to receive notifications even by email, because sometimes I'm not in ASANA because I have many different jobs. So I still do that. But what I've seen working more often than not is people set up all the notifications and then reducing it to the right level. Your level might be different than mine. Some people like to be micromanaging and it works. Some people don't like it and it works as well. So there's no judgment, just find the right place. And then you have different tools. You have the email. Email is great, but it's a bit overloading sometimes. You can integrate to Slack or to Teams, so you receive it in groups. I'll show you that in a second. And you also have your mobile. So maybe, something you want to receive by mobile, only your notification, and not by email. You follow notification, mobile works as well. That might be a way. But those are the different notifications that we can have. And in terms of integration, so I was covering notification settings. We've done that. Custom notification per project. We've done that. Custom mobile settings, that's on your mobile phone. I highly recommend installing the mobile phone app. It's really useful when you are a manager and you're on the go and some of your team members ask you questions on one of the tasks. And they mention you, and I don't know, you're traveling or you're having coffee or whatever, and you can answer directly from your phone, and that saves a lot of time for your team, because if it was by email, it would take a few hours more. Now they can get that straight out. So that's very useful in that sense. So notification on the phone are quite cool. Now, in terms of integration, a few that are very important. The first one is going to be on your settings. Here on top, we will have up our settings, and we will have in notification the integration to Slack. So if you have Slack, you can connect it here, and then your notification can go directly on Slack. Now, you guys mostly use Team, from what I can see. There's two integrations with Team. You can just click on the right-hand side here, any project, say customize, go to apps, and then click add. And you can go for that particular project, you can add the Team plugin. And adding the Team plugin. Hello? Christine? So on the Team plugin, you're going to be able to set up so that messages for that particular project are sent to the group in Team. So the benefit here is when there are messages, you'll be able to send them to Team. And the messages, for the one who don't know workflow, you might be a bit lost, but you have then the ability to use automation here. So you can create a rule, and you say add a rule. You have some predefined one, which we can see here. or can create your own one. But you can say, when a task is completed, send a message to a channel. When something happens, send a message to a channel. So essentially, it's going to be sending messages to channel, and you can use the rule here to define in which condition it will. So you can go here and say when a task is moved to a section, when this task is assigned to, when a task is approaching a due date. So when a task is approaching or is overdue, send a message to a channel, hey, pay attention, there's this that needs to be done. When something is approved, so you can have a channel where you receive approval, and this is where you will notify people. Or in the case of ticketing, for example, which I know a few of you in this call are looking at, when you have a ticket, your external users don't have access to ASANA, but they have access to a channel on team. And you want to notify them of something, an update on their ticket. So you can have a message sent to your channel and team and messaging them and letting them know of an update on their tickets. They can't really move the ticket or do anything, but they know they have a status update. That's quite interesting. So you have plenty of triggers here, and you can then use them to actually have an action. And this action can be send a message to team, or here on Slack, you have direct message and you have channel messages. Or if you can also send an email directly from ASANA. You can have this email being sent only with Gmail. The Outlook plugin doesn't do that. So every different software has different functionalities. For Gmail, you can send an email, not with Outlook. So that's quite interesting. And then the last thing you can think about is also the reverse integration. So in here, you will be able to set up the integration with ASANA to the tool. So when something happens in ASANA, send it to the tool. Send an email, send a message in a group, in a chat, private, fair enough. But now you have integration in the other software. So if you go to Gmail or to Outlook, you go to the Microsoft Store or the Google Play Store, you'll be able to download the ASANA integration tool, and that adds to your Gmail or to your Outlook, and enables you to take, I have my email if you want, it enables you to take an email you have and to make it a task. So I'm going to try to find the window I have with my browser to show you that, and you are able to add your task to oops, let me just find that, to add your task to your project or to update a task. Now this is also oops, to find where it is. I won't be able to show it to you today. No, it's not working. I apologize. I haven't installed the plugin yet. I have it normally. Okay, I'll show you that in a minute. So that's one plugin you can install, but then also on Zoom, you will have other plugins. And so you can go to the Zoom store and you install the plugin, and then the same for a team. When you are in your Zoom meeting or in your team meeting, you can create the task. So you need to go on Zoom or on Team and add the plugin, and then you can create tasks directly from there while you're having the meeting. Quite interesting. Finally, there's also the Zoom plugin here. And when you install that one, it's going to add you to Zoom. You're going to be able to add a link on the task to the meeting. So there are two really cool stuff there. I think you can do the same with Team. Is one, you will have the recording attached to your task. Very helpful on the project if you want to come back to it and go back and see what was discussed. Second, which my favorite, but is a bit hard to put in place at this time, is you can have a transcript. So you have a meeting, the meeting finishes, the software picks up what I was saying, for example, and will attach that to the task. So it will be text, not just a recording. And then the recording will be attached to the task as well. So if you come back to it later, you can search the text, you can look at who committed to what, you don't have to watch the whole video. But in both cases, it's really interesting to have your meeting attached to a task, so you can always come back to it in terms of weekly meetings, customer meetings, project meetings, who committed to what, who said what was discussed. It's very useful to have it here, so you don't have to look for it somewhere else after. That's one of my favorite plugin personally. So that is all for notification. Do you guys have any question around the notification? Did I give you some good information? Or was there some aha moment or anything that was useful for you? Any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Thank you, Christine. No one's talking to me.
But I better let you know someone's listening.
Yeah, I don't know why everyone's shy today. Usually I've got plenty of.
Yeah, well, people are listening, but yeah.
I'm good.
People.
You're good? Did you find it useful so far, just as a feedback?
A bit hard for me because I only came in right at the end. Sorry, my apologies. I will look at the recording.
Okay, thank you, Tracy.
It's been useful, but we just have to wait and see how I go with it. I'm going to actually have to watch the recording again too, because I don't pick things up straight away. But it has been, useful.
Any feedback on how to improve? So always welcome.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really a key of your success. Being able to do the job in there relies on good communication and good access to data. So if you have it well set up, it will help you. All right, so I've covered most of the most important stuff. We have 3 minutes left. I can go into how to use Inbox as well. Or if you have questions, I can answer any question. I don't think I can get questions, so I'll have a look at the Inbox for you. So Inbox is here to replace our inbox from Outlook or Gmail. And the idea is we're going to receive messages here. So when we go into our ASANA, we'll go to the top here and we have our inbox. Now we use what we call contextual messaging, which means that when you receive a message here on the left-hand side, you will be going to click on it and you will see the related projects. So you see the task related to it, you see the history on that task. You can also have a look at which project it relates to, who created the task, which stage it is, and the custom field. So contextual messaging gives you context around the message you've received so that you can be more efficient at reading it and you don't have to ask questions everywhere. And this inbox here have several functionalities. You have new AI functionality as well. We'll discover it next week. But essentially, you can send a message from here. You can filter it by person. You can also click here to manage notifications around that is a link to the notification we have in the tool. You can have a look at archive. So when you read a message and you're done with it, you can archive it. It removes it from your inbox. You can have a look at the message you've sent as well. So the one you want to send again, then filter them. The idea is that you don't have in your inbox here a number of unread messages, but it flows as it comes, and you can come back to it and have a look at them, bookmark them, create a follow-up task as well if you need to do something from it, or archive them if you're done with it. And that helps with the My Task, if you want to cover today, that's not a subject. It really helps to limit the number of emails you receive and also be more efficient, because when you receive something, it is in context. Well, I'm done for today, just on time, and it's 59. Do you guys have any questions? Anything you want me to cover? Anything else?
No, I don't have any questions.
Oh, cool. Thank you, everyone, for your little messages. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Sarah. You will all receive an email in the coming hours or tomorrow from our marketing team with the recording of today. Every person that were actually registered to the event today will receive it, but nobody else. So you can then circulate it into the news. That helps. And again, those events happens every week, so there will be a similar event in a month's time or two around the same subject.
So I'm going to be attending a few of these training sessions. Martin, do you think it's better with the camera on or camera off?
Well, I always like to see
the participants.
Maybe you can switch it on when you're talking, so that makes it more interactive. But the most important for us is that we receive questions and we interact into the job. Because if you just listen to me, then it goes one ear, it goes out the other usually. So doing some work together and trying it between meetings and during the meeting is important. So get good results out of it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
My pleasure. And thank you everyone for joining today. It was a pleasure to have you, and I hope to see you in the coming weeks for our next meetings.
Yes. Well, thank you from Australia.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys. Take care.